South Africa, the Springboks, champions of the world.
We are the world champions. Not him, or him, or her. Not some of us here, or there. Not them. We are the world champions. All of us connected.
Indeed, a cup of gold at the end of the South African rainbow.
It's go time, Boga. It's go time, Zanzi.
Welcome to this MTN Meet the Coach session ahead of the first test between the Springboks and the British and Irish Lions. Of course, the excitement is really building with the Springboks having named their side to face the British and Irish Lions yesterday and the visitors naming their side a couple of hours ago today. I'm very privileged to be joined by Springbok coach Jacques Nienabar himself this afternoon, taking some time out of his busy schedule to have a chat with us. And we're going to take the opportunity to not only chat about the first test coming up this weekend, but get to know the man behind the Springboks a little bit better. Jacques, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. It's great to see you once again. Had the privilege of following your guys' journey in 2019 at the Rugby World Cup, and it's great to have some one-on-one time with you here again. Maybe we can just start off with how you're feeling this week. Really is pretty much the biggest test of your coaching career as the Springboks. You've got one test as coach to your name so far. How are you feeling for this one?
No, Gareth, yeah, thanks for having me. No, I'm nervous. It's going to be a nice challenge and a big one, and obviously there's lots of expectations. And but looking forward to it. It's going to be a nice challenge, and it's something that we've been looking forward to since I've got named as head coach way back so long ago in January or February 2020. And a lot of players have built up towards this, and to now, so Wednesday before that big day, lots of excitement in the squad and the team.
Jacques, I'm going to take you back quite a few years to where it all started for you, because I find your journey to becoming a Springbok coach a very interesting one. You started out as a physio. Maybe you can just, in the interest of our viewers, just explain a little bit about your journey as a physio, how you moved into a coaching role, and how that evolution came about.
Gareth, yes, it started, like you said there, I loved rugby and I played rugby at school, but I wasn't very good at it, so I played for our school 7 side, but always very, very interested in rugby, and so I guess I thought my only way getting involved into rugby at a professional level, it just turned professional as I was studying. I finished physio in 1996. And then I thought it would be a nice career getting involved in rugby on a professional level. So yes, I started out as being a physio with the Cheetahs way back in 1996, 97, and I got involved in Super Rugby in 1999, also as a physio. And then eventually my journey took a slipway or detour in 2004 when our strength and conditioning coach at the Cheetahs was pulled up into the Springboks side with Jake White in 2004. And he stayed on with the Springboks from 2004 till 2007. And in that time, that was all the transition between Rassie going from a player going into coaching, and then Rassie came with the idea, would I be open for the transition from physio into the strength and conditioning component of things. And when we lost our S&C coach with the Cheetahs, I did a dual role. I did both in the interim with the idea of getting somebody in later as a S&C coach, and then we found a physio. And then they asked if I would, like Rassie asked if I would be open to moving to the strength and conditioning side of things. So I did a little bit of studying, postgraduate studying into strength and conditioning. And that's where I actually got into working with players on the field as a strength and conditioning coach. As a physio, you basically work one-on-one with players, but not in a team environment. And then as strength and conditioning coach, I got to work in a team environment. And that's almost how I then, from there on, 2-3 years later, started progressing into being a defense coach. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up being where I'm currently.
I just want to chat a little bit about your relationship with Rassie. I found it quite funny. One of the press conferences that we had back in 2019 at the Rugby World Cup, Rassie made mention of you guys meeting in the army, and I kind of always scratched my head and I was like, is that true? Is that where your guys' relationship started? And I also wanted to ask how much of a role he played in you sort of saying, hey, you need to go and get some coaching, certificates if that's what you actually did, and upskilled yourself to be where you are today.
No, yeah, you're 100% right. Myself and Rassie, actually, we met in the army. So one of my big friends from Bloemfontein, he was Rassie's roommate. And so we met there. And then obviously when I got involved with the Shimlas at the University of Free State, I became their physio. Rassie was playing for them. And that's where our relationship. So we became friends first as a students in the army first, and then as students, and then the relationships started developing as me being the physio of the team and he being a player, being the captain, and that's how things actually started building. And since then, I've been his physio up to the day that he decided to retire in 2004, and the next year he went into coaching, and that's where I moved into the strength and conditioning side of things. And then Rassie moved down to Cape Town to the Stormers, or Western Province, and he invited me, I was fortunate enough that he invited me with him. So I moved down to Cape Town, and that's where I actually went into defense coaching part of things. Myself and Rassie actually wrote our first defense manual when he was still coaching at the Cheetahs, and I started doing a little bit of defense coaching as an S&C coach. At that stage, it wasn't that, how can I say, that professional. It was almost a blank canvas. There wasn't a lot of defense coaches back then. Mm-hmm. So I started venturing into that. And that's how our relationship started. And I must say, Rassie has a big influence in my career. Obviously, we've been working together. Well, as him being a player, me being a physio, probably since 1994. Before rugby turned professional. And when Rassie was playing for the Cats and was a Springbok, I was a physio for the franchise and worked with him as a physio when he was a player. So yes, obviously he's had a big influence in my career. And back then, Rassie was doing the stats of the Cats and from the Cheetahs. And a lot of times you would say, listen, Jacques, come and have a look here. Look what this. That's probably where I got intrigued by the whole statistical side of things, and the analysis part of things. He did the analysis for the team. He was the player, he was the captain, but he also did the analysis, So that's how I got involved in the statistical side of things. And we all know Rassie is quite a strategic guy and a statistician. And I was fortunate enough to have a mentor like him.
Before we jump into the next question, I just want to throw it over to the viewers. You're more than welcome to post your questions in the chat below, and we'll do our best to pose those to the Springbok coach. Jacques, let's just take it over to being the Springbok coach now. Obviously, you've been involved with Rassie for a long time. You were the defense coach for the Springboks. You guys saw them to glory in 2019. How much has actually changed from your role as defense coach to being head coach of the Springboks right now?
I look probably off the field a lot more than on the field. On the field, I'm still running the defense part of things. I'm still looking after the kicking game and the exits. So from a on-field rugby program, not a lot has changed, but off-field, a lot of things have changed. Obviously, team selection. I was always part of the team selection with Rassie when we had meetings with the selectors, announcing the squad. So I guess that's one way how he actually got me into things and to get to how things work, how teams get selected with the Springboks. It's a process. It's not a one-man show where you actually just sit there and decide, listen, I'm going to pick this guy and not this guy. It's a process. There's a process of selectors. So I was fortunate that he took me on that journey in 2018, 2019. But now, but back then it was easy for me. You gave your opinion, but Rassie was always the guy that he stood in for the selection. And if things don't go well, I mean, it was always the buck stopped at him. But back then it was easy just to give your opinion. There's no consequence in your opinion because it's his decision. He's the head coach. So I think that's probably what changed in terms of that is the buck now. Although Rassie is still director of rugby and he's a very hands-on director of rugby, I think there's a different style of being director of rugby, and I think we do it a little bit different than other countries. But ultimately, the weight of selecting a team and making an opinion is a lot more now than what it was back then. And then obviously, I enjoyed being how can I say, heavily involved with the team, but probably not in the forefront or in the media. It was always nice for me to sit at the back, and other people ran that part. And that's quite. It took some getting used to the online stuff and team selection, the media aspect of it, and stuff like that. So I'm still learning on the job as it goes ahead, but luckily I've got, like I said, Rassie is a director of rugby who's very hands-on. He's not just sitting in the boardroom, he's very hands-on with us currently, and he guides and helps a lot.
Just a shout out there to Mikey for the best wishes for you, Coach. We've got a couple of questions coming through here as well. This is an interesting question, and it's very, very topical. Has the team adequately recovered from COVID and ready for Saturday? Just to rejig that question a little bit, how difficult has it been as a coach to just deal with the reality of COVID and try to make sure that protocols are met and keep player morale high in a situation or an environment where, you're on tour, when you're in Japan, the guys could go out, they could go and have dinner. It's not quite like that anymore, and it probably won't be for another year or so.
Yeah, I know. Listen, that's been a big challenge for us, and I must say from the start, when we started, we say, listen, probably the best way to handle this whole COVID situation and COVID environment is to be able to adapt. I think that's the big thing, because and we're currently learning as we go. And what I mean by learning on the go, you kind of have an idea, okay, this is going to put some mental strain on guys, being in a bubble, staying in a hotel, not having access of moving around and normal stuff, things that you took for granted back when we were in Japan, and you thought, yes, it will be a mental strain on coaches, on the environment, on the athletes, but until you're in it, you understand, you get a better idea of it, not knowing, how can I say, your preparation time, like in our case, our preparation time got hampered, I was joking today with our strength and conditioning coach after today's session. This was, since we got together as a group on the 5th of June, this is the first full training week as normal we would have when we were in the World Cup. All the other weeks were either you miss a day through isolation because a guy tested positive, so everybody's got to go into isolation, then you got to retest the next day, wait 5 hours till the test come out, then if everybody is clear you can go back onto the pitch, then you have to adjust your training schedule, and the players, a player tests positive, let's say on a Sunday, everybody has to go in the rooms. You get your food delivered at the door. You're not allowed to go out, and then you sit and wait. And I think the mental strain it puts on the players is they don't know: are we going to train tomorrow? Are we going to start preparing? Will the test match be called off? Is the test match going on? I think that uncertainty is something that we said, listen, we must be able to adapt on the run and change our plans. And I must give credit to the team and the management. We adapted when myself and 8 other management members tested positive. The other 12 management members had to all hands on deck. People who were normally administrators had to do media, and guys who were media had to help assist with the SNC guys in setting out drills on the field and help run drills. So it's almost all hands on deck. So yes, it's been difficult, not difficult in the sense, it's been different. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is that things aren't as smooth and as, that on a Monday we're going to do this, on a Tuesday we're going to do this, on a Wednesday we're going to do this. Things change in an instant, and then you'll have to adapt on it. So yeah, I think that's probably the big things that we had to deal with.
Just staying with that point, and very briefly, just in terms of player fitness during lockdown, how difficult was it for your S&C coaches to make sure the guys are as close to test match intensity level fitness over the past few months?
It was tough in the sense we're lucky. A lot of our players play abroad, and they probably got into rugby a little bit earlier than me in South Africa. They were probably about 3 months ahead of us, I would say. But again, it was quite a big strain on the S&C in terms of monitoring the players. We had quite a big squad, over 60, 70 players that we were looking after. So it's weekly looking at their game, not only their GPS stats, but also their involvements from a coaching point of view. We had to look at their involvements, try and marry the two, the GPS stats and the numbers on the one side, but also the rugby stuff on the other side. And have regular feedback sessions with the players regarding that. And I think your other question, I was thinking now, you ask, did everybody fully recover from the COVID?
Yeah.
Yes, luckily for us, there's how can I say, very straightforward protocols in terms of COVID. When a player gets symptoms, not necessarily test positive. Sometimes a player will have symptoms, let's say on a Monday, but he only really push out a positive test on the Wednesday or the Thursday, So the moment the player got symptoms, he was into isolation. We lucky enough and fortunate enough that we every morning we fill in an app where you have to go through the signs and symptoms of COVID, and the moment you tick one, it flags at the doctor, and then they will put you in isolation and then retest you every single day. And the moment you push out a positive test, then obviously you stay in isolation, and the protocol is easy. You're 10 days in isolation, and once you're out of isolation or you're symptom-free, you can start with your return to play protocol. Sometimes that might be you must be 7 days symptom-free, and then you can start your return to play. And then there's specific things that you have to tick. You have to do an EKG, and there's lots of other tests that gets done by external medical personnel that clears you and say, listen, okay, you're good to go. So, from that point of view, I think that process is quite extensive and thorough. So I think we covered in terms of a player gets cleared to return to training is properly cleared on various levels, and not only by our medical personnel. Like I say, it's also outside personnel.
You talk about properly cleared, a man who's now properly cleared and back into the starting lineup, Mapimpi, this weekend. I know a lot of South Africans will be so excited to see him back in the green and gold. How difficult was it for you to make that decision to bring Mapimpi in, just knowing how involved he has been in the Springbok setup and how well he knows everything?
No, it was an easy decision. I mean, worked with Mapimpi since 2018. And luckily for us, Mapimpi was part of us. He was, being a Japan player, the first players that actually joined us in Bloemfontein in that 3-week camp was the Japan players. So Mapimpi was with us from day one since we started in Bloemfontein for 3 weeks. I think we started on the 5th of June. And we had a 3-week stint there. And then the whole group got together on the 26th of June. And so we had lots of on-field time with Mapimpi. So a lot of people say, listen, yes, he was unfortunate in the sense that he hasn't been involved in the 3 games that we had available to play before we go into the British and Irish Lions series. But 2 of them was due to COVID. And then the first one, we just decided to maybe give a little bit of opportunity to other players in the sense of Roscoe Speckman and Apelele Fassi. So we wanted to have a look and see how they were doing. So we always knew what we had in Mapimpi, and like I said, he had a stormer over 3 weeks in Bloemfontein. So we were happy with his performance and what he pushed out on the training field. So it was for us more important to get a few ticks behind the other players that we have there. And so the first one he missed purely because we were giving other guys opportunity, and we were looking to play him in the Georgia test matches, the 2 Georgia test matches available. And then, unfortunately, things turned the other way. He tested positive for COVID, and he wasn't up for selection because of that. But, I mean, he was full-on part of us, know what we do. And like I said, we've been coaching him since 2018. So now it was an easy call for me to get Makazole back in the mix.
Coach, just before we continue, thanks to everyone who has commented on the YouTube video. Once again, you're more than welcome to pop a few more questions there if you have any burning questions for the Springbok head coach. Jacques, I just wanted to ask you quickly, another interesting selection that a few people were focused on was Kwagga Smith at 8, and just your thoughts on Jasper van Zyl and his coming into the Springbok squad and how quickly it seems he fit in, and the performances that he did put in, obviously against Georgia, and then the other test that, well, not the test, the match that SAA played against the British and Irish Lions.
Yes, Jasper did phenomenal, and I must say he's one player that he knocked the door down playing abroad, you know, and he's put some solid performances in, like you say, coming off the bench in that Georgia test match where Kwagga started, and then Kwagga wasn't up for selection for the SAA game due to COVID, you know, and being a close contact, so he wasn't he was in isolation until the player that he was in close contact with was cleared, and he pushed out a false positive. So the guy tested positive, he was a close contact, and then on a retest, that player was then a false positive. So Kwagga then got released out of isolation. But by that stage, Jasper was already training for 2 days with the squad. So we decided, listen, we're just going to let Jasper start in that SAA game. And so yeah, that's how that ended up. We would probably have selected Kwagga ahead of Jasper if he wasn't a close contact. So things just worked out that way. Jasper fit in nicely, you know, in terms of the team and in terms of how we want to play. And hats off to the coaches with all the alignment camps we had with Jasper, Felix and Felix Jones, who was in Ireland, and Andy Edwards, who's in the UK. They went on alignment camp trips, visit the players at the respected clubs, at sit-downs. We had online sessions with Jasper from South Africa, and they were on-site face-to-face with Jasper, answering if there was any questions. So I think there was a lot of detail that went into Jasper in the build-up to this series. And hats off to him for consuming all that information, because there is quite a lot of information. And yeah, hats off to him. And he's a guy that slotted in perfectly. And we normally, when we select the squad, don't know if people know, but 23 obviously will 15 guys, and then 8 on the bench, and then we have a 24th and 25th player, so 1 forward and back. So if we do get somebody maybe that pulls out because of flu or a late withdrawal, that we have a forward and a back on standby, and Jasper will be the forward on standby, and then Sabuna Nkosi will be the back on standby. So yeah, that's how close Jasper is to the team. Your question on Kwagga, yeah, obviously Kwagga went with us to the World Cup, and we know what we have in Kwagga. He's always been. He's a little bit different, and I think that's probably why people look and say, listen, yeah, look at Dwayne, and Jasper fits the Dwayne mold, but Kwagga brings something different to our back rows in terms of what he brings and his skill set that he brings to the party. So yeah, from that point of view, it will be interesting to see how it fit. I thought they gelled quite nicely in the Georgia Test match, especially the back end of that Test match. I thought the first 20-25 minutes we were rusty and jittery and probably didn't pitch which is the coach's fault, with the right attitude going into Georgia. I think, but after 25-30 minutes, the players flicked the switch and they found solutions on the day. And I thought Kwagga had a stormer until we took him off for Jasper.
Jacques, just turning attention to the British and Irish Lions, obviously they named their side earlier today. I'm sure you guys had a look at the team list. I know the Springboks are quite inwardly focused. You're not too worried about what the opposition are doing. But the reality of Test match rugby, you do have to do your analysis. You do have to know what the opposition are going to be looking to do. The luxury of being the Springboks is you've watched the British and Irish Lions play pretty much 7 games up until now. What I'd like to know is, what are you going to expect? I mean, have they shown their hand playing all of those games? Have they shown you that the DNA of how it is the British and Irish Lions are going to play against the Springboks?
I think in some sense, I think there will always be a couple of tricks up your sleeve which you won't show. Same with us. I think if you go and look at the games that we've played, it would be probably more focus, and there's certain things that we have strategically that we decided, listen, we're going to go in with certain amount of things. There's certain things that we wanted to get right before the series. But obviously, you won't show everything, and I'm sure Warren and his team wouldn't have shown us everything. But one thing that I think, and they've mentioned it, and if you look at the team they selected, they want to play a high-paced game, want to run us off our feet, and that's the luxury of them having the Test match probably here at sea level, and the unfortunate now that we're not going to participate at altitude, which is always a good thing for South Africa. It's different if playing at 1,300 or 1,600 meters. You can do as much altitude training as you can on a bike and with this high-tech equipment, but it's different playing at that level. It's tougher to breathe, but they don't make any bones about it, the fact that they're going to ramp up the intensity. And I think that's probably where a guy like Kwagga will probably come in handy for us. If you look at the Lucies that they selected, they're mobile. Cronin playing for Leinster, coached against him when I was at Munster. Tom Curry is we all know from the World Cup, he can run for ages and ages. So, and then Courtney Laws, who also plays for England. So I think in that sense, and then they can bring off the bench. They've got Watson and Byrne, who they can slot in at lock or loose forward. Tyke was the last signing Rassie made for Munster, so we did an extensive analysis on Tyke before he left. He was the last guy we actually signed, or Rassie signed, but like I say, we did proper analysis on him, and so we know what he can do. So yes, they'll probably look to ramp up the intensity, and but there will always be some technical and tactical stuff that they wouldn't have shown.
I find a very interesting question coming through here on the comment section from Njabula Mbata. Does the return of Lions captain Alan Wynne-Jones throw a spanner in the works in terms of your pack selection? I guess that's just going ahead to the next 2 tests as well. What do you think of Alan Wynne being back, coach?
No, yes, I think it's a big boost for them. Obviously, getting your captain back, it's like us at one stage. We thought, listen, we won't play with Sia, and I mean we've got a lot of leaders. I think the Lions are the same. I know Conor Murray quite well, and he was my neighbour in Ireland. So So he would have been or he was a brilliant tour captain and a good leader. They've got across the board. I mean, Owen Farrell, captain. There's a lot of international captains in that mix. So I think, but Alan was made the captain before the tour. I think he works well with Warren. And all the other coaches that's there, there's quite a big Welsh flavour in their coaching staff. Even Steve Tandy, who's currently coaching with Gregor at Scotland, he was when we were at Munster, he was coaching Ospreys, which is a club in Wales. So they pretty much there's a big Welsh connection in the coaching team, and I think with Alan Wynne there, they actually it just strengthens their hand, and he's a very inspirational guy. He's very experienced. I mean, this is his. Yes, I think he's played 12 British and Irish Lions games, and just to get your head around that, test matches. He's been involved in the test series in 2009 in South Africa. So that gives you how experienced he is, not only just in rugby, but in Lions rugby, because it's a different tour. It's a tour with 4 countries. So he's seen 4 tours. So he's got a very good idea of what the challenges are with the team that's now selected, the players not being selected. So I think it's massive for them, for Warren. Yeah, and you can see they put a lot of effort into getting him back as quickly as possible.
All right, Coach, we're very cognizant of the amount of time that you've given us today, and I think it would be quite pertinent just to finish off this question from Shane Mann in the comments section. It says here, rugby has always unified the country. Have you been having discussions with the team about their role in unifying the broader South Africa in reference to the last 2 weeks? Obviously, for the whole of South Africa, it has been a very, very trying 2 weeks, probably the most trying that we've seen in decades.
Yes, I must say, although we're in a bubble, sitting here in a hotel and going to training field and back, obviously one sees what's happening out there, and we feel for the country and the people, and we can see the suffering. But at the end of the day, we just normal guys that represent South Africa, and our main thing is we will try and put smiles on people's faces for the next week with our performance on Saturday, and that's all we can ask. That's all we can do. We can play our small little part in this whole almost stronger together, if you can call it like that. Everybody's got a role to play in our country, and our role is on Saturday to make sure that we pitch up with the right physicality, the right intensity, getting our detail done in our preparation, getting our mental preparation done for Saturday, and then put out a performance there that's worthy the respect of South Africa. And hopefully that performance will be good enough to get us a victory, And we believe with the preparation that we've done during the week, and if we do that extra mental preparation now going into Saturday, and we pitch with that intensity and with that mindset, that we will put out a performance that will give us a result and a victory, But if we can just do that, and that makes people smile and forget about their problems for maybe an hour or two, that would be awesome for us. But we know that it's not up to us, that's the role we can play, and everybody, I suppose, have got their own role to play in building our country, our awesome country.
Coach, just one last question here from the YouTube page before I let you go. And it's a pertinent question because the bomb squad became a massive talking point in South African rugby. And I think you guys went and changed the way we looked at rugby and changed the way teams use their bench. We don't have quite the 6-2 split on the bench that made up the bomb squad. You did explain this to the press a little bit earlier this week, but just for our viewers today, why you went for a 5-3 split on the bench this weekend and not that old 6-2 bomb squad?
Yeah, the thing is, if you look at our team, let's look at, so obviously the two guys, so it's the 5 forwards and then obviously the 2 or 3 backs. So if we go 5-3, there's 3 backs on the bench, or 6-2, there's 2 backs on the bench. And if you think about it, in our starting team, we currently have Andre, who had COVID and was in isolation and in his room for 10 days. And did his return to play. But for 10 days, he got stuck in a room. You know, we had a Damian Dalenda that was a close contact that got stuck in a room for 10 days. Then we had Makazole Mapimpi that got COVID and got stuck in a room for 10 days. Even though they didn't have any symptoms, they were still not on a training field, in a room, and probably didn't get that that training intensity and exposure, you know. So couldn't gym in the beginning until they get past their 7 days isolation, and then we can do a little bit with them, training 15 minutes, then going to 30, then 45 minutes. So you build it up slowly, and then after in the Georgia, in the SA8 test match, Billy left the field at about 60 minutes with a little niggle. So if you think there alone, we've got 3 COVID cases that have been stuck in a room for 10 days. And I think, and then Billy, who obviously came off a little bit, he's training brilliantly and he's got no issues. But for us, we just felt it's a risk if you put 2 backs on the bench, and let's say you get Andre pulling up with cramps after 50, 60 minutes, just purely because he hasn't been exposed to that intensity over the last 10 days. And the same with Damian, and the same with Makazole. We would have risked, it would have been too big a risk for us to take. So that's why we went with the 3 backs on the bench. It was obviously 6-2 is always available for us, and again, it's something that we would venture going forward. You know, definitely something that we would look at again. But just we felt that the risk in this specific game, for the circumstances we were dealt with leading up into this test match, was just too much to take. But like I say, it's not something that we are now going to discard, not going with a 6-2 split anymore. It's just purely the hand that we've been dealt with.
A very pragmatic approach, I think. Coach, I think we're gonna leave it at that. Thank you so much for giving so much of your time this afternoon. It really is fantastic to pick your brain a little bit, get the psychology before the big test this weekend. I think it goes without saying that the whole of South Africa is behind you this weekend, and we're really, really hoping that you can put a smile on everyone's faces come Saturday night. Jacques Nienabar, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Gareth.
All right, one more push is a renewed drive to encourage the public not to give up now. It asks that all of us keep our masks on, wash or sanitize our hands, and maintain a physical distance from each other until it's safe to no longer do so. In this way, we'll be able to get back to the old normal, or the best possible version of it, sooner rather than later. Thank you very much for joining us for this MTN Meet the Coach session. We will be back next week with another episode.
If you wake up and don't want to smile, if it takes just a little while, open your eyes and just look at the day. You know you'll see things in a different way. Oh, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it'll soon be here. See, it'll be better than before. Yesterday's gone. Yesterday's gone.
Everywhere you go, MTN.